Hi, Miguel.
Hey, Sabrina.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Eventprofs Together at Home. I am with Miguel, and I'm Sabrina Myers from Hot Hospitality Exchange. And today, me and my Miguel I didn't recall if we'd actually ever met before, but we have. At an
I think we have.
I believe
Yeah.
we have. Miguel is someone that I see his videos all the time on my feed. So he's someone that stands out to me in the industry because he moderates so many fantastic organizational webinars, trade shows. He's on the floor. He's kind of like, to me, the face of the industry, if you will. So I'm very excited to have him here on the chat. So I'm going to hand it over to Miguel right now, and he's going to tell you a little bit about who he is, what he does, where he is based, and what the situation there is right now. So over to you, Miguel.
Cool. Nice to be here. I think we met at an IMEX, but I may have been behind a phone doing something, and Wave sort of went hello, and that was probably it. So yeah, it's busy times. So my name is Miguel Neves. I'm originally from Portugal. Spent a lot of time in the UK, but now live in Copenhagen in Denmark. I spent 6 years with the IMEX team, doing all the work with IMEX and doing a lot of the online community side of things, which is something I love. And that's probably why you see a lot of me, because I'm really passionate about being online in the industry and connecting with people. And I've had my own company called Miguels7.com for about 2.5 years now. And I'm doing essentially the similar things to what I was doing at IMEX, but all to do with online community, the events industry, or the events sector, as I prefer to call it, and social media and digital media. And somewhere in the middle, that's where I live. And I don't always have the exact terminology to describe what I do, but I like to stay open to new ideas and new opportunities. And that's sort of my world. Yeah.
So do you normally work from home? Is this a new situation for you, having to work from home, or how are you set up, and how is sort of your daily now?
So I'm actually at my office. I have a shared office space. I have my neighbor who is not here. He's not shown up for the last about month. So it's quite good. And it's in Copenhagen, which is quite a nice view outside the window. So I actually spent about 2 weeks working from home, which is challenging because we have a young daughter, a 7-month-old daughter. So it's a lot of fun being with her and seeing her all the time, but it is quite challenging to work in that environment. And we only live in a very small flat in central Copenhagen, so there's not a lot of kind of, I'm going to go to the office, to the other room. That's not really an option. Yeah. So I'm fortunate to have a small shared office space. It's only a 5-minute walk from my house. Okay. So other than those 2 weeks, I've been able to come in, and there's a sort of side entrance. I don't see anybody. And it's all legal. Like, Copenhagen has not gone into a complete lockdown at any point. So I've been pretty lucky. And it was kind of healthy because it was good to just have a space to focus on work. And I prefer to have that physical division if I can.
Absolutely. So what would you say are your 3 daily essentials now?
I don't know if I have 3 daily essentials, but I think just sort of going through my day, I definitely look at making sure that the family is well. And, in the morning, just making sure that I usually take a bit of a morning shift. I take the baby first thing and kind of hang out with her a little bit, give her her first meal, just make sure things are kind of smooth at home. So not kind of, rush everything because I have to be at work at a certain time. I'm pretty lucky. Most days I don't have meetings starting at 9 sharp or 8:30. So I try to be as flexible as I can. I try to go home for lunch and not stay very late at work. I do have to sometimes, but a lot of times I'll take the later calls from home. Yeah, and I guess, there's some sort of practical tips. Maybe we get into that later, but there's some little things like I keep my phone away from my bedroom, for example. I only check my phone once I start walking to work. I don't kind of wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and check my phone. Yeah. I just do the normal family stuff. And it's like, look, if there's a real emergency, somebody's going to call. Yeah. If it's just another 50 emails, then it's better if I reserve that time for later on.
When I'm in the office, then I actually get to it. Exactly.
Exactly. And it comes to about 9, 10 o'clock, and I put my phone away, and it stays away. Like I think I spend so much time online during the day anyway that I don't really feel the need to be scrolling through my feeds. That's sort of my job during the day. So I'm like,
Yeah,
yep, I'm
absolutely.
good. I'm good.
So have you come to any sort of realizations at all in this time, maybe about yourself, maybe about, the industry, or whatever it is? I think everyone's been kind of coming to certain, you know.
Wow, yeah, where to start? I mean, there's so many things that I think are coming to the forefront at this point.
Mm,
Um, One thing that I think is worth mentioning is that we're all looking at doing these online events, right? And that kind of shift to the online world. And one thing that I realized quite soon is that when you do a physical event, everybody who's there in person is a guest, is your guest. Like if you're the organizer, they're your guest.
yeah.
When you do an online event, the event is the guest in somebody's house, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
Like, the event is on the screen, the event
Yeah.
is sort of on the computer,
Yeah.
and that person has to kind of open up their house in a sense, especially if the camera is on and if it's kind of an interactive event. That
Yeah.
person has to open up their home, their private space,
Yeah.
and be like, yes, I am now with you. But you're only ever one click away from that person zoning out and checking their emails or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Exactly.
So that kind of frame of mind of you are the guest or the event is the guest, I think is super important, because it also makes you think about online events a bit more like making a TV show, rather than, it's a professional event, so everybody has to shut up and pay attention. It's not
No.
going to happen.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's going to be like a kid flying around and things happening, and
Yeah.
that's it. Like you have to just deal with it. So I find it quite interesting, and a lot of people I think are having quite a challenge kind of getting into that frame of mind. Like, oh, I have a meeting for 500 doctors. They always like, sit in a room and just listen. Like, okay, but I don't think that's going to happen when it's online. They're
Get
probably
to
going to
be
be
a
doing
lot
three
more
things.
engaging, or
Yeah.
have a couple of different creative audience engagement methods in play if
Yeah.
you really want to
And,
get.
and I think if we're really honest, I think that's what happens on site normally as well.
Yeah.
Once the lights go down, people check their emails or do whatever, right? So if we're really honest, it's the same. But because when we're physically in a space, we can't just teleport off to a different world.
Yeah.
It's more like in our heads, right? We're still physically there, so there's a sort of sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just things like that have really changed in the last couple of months, and it's fascinating to see the people that are sort of clinging on to how everything used to be, and sort of being like, no, we shouldn't change these things. We should, just remember how they used to be.
Yeah.
And other people who are like, let's try it. Let's do some different stuff. And I think,
Let's innovate. Let's roll with it.
Yeah, and it takes guts and it takes a bit of an open mind to do that. But I think that's where that's where you get the experience, right? If you're scared, you don't get the experience.
Yeah. Well, I guess in a way that's where you grow or you develop, because you're having to adapt. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you don't take that dive, then it's all theory, right? It's only when you actually do it that you go, okay.
And I think that's a very valid and I would say right now a very common realization for a lot of people. They are coming to that realization, because they're having to come face to face with virtual events and with running them and with being part of them, not just moderating, but also sitting in and listening to webinars and things. And that whole landscape, has changed.
And everybody's way more comfortable with technology now than they were 2 months ago. I think.
Absolutely.
By default, right?
Yeah. And also way more comfortable with social media than they ever were.
Exactly.
Whole new levels, that I've seen. So,
which is interesting. Like Twitter, I used to be big on Twitter, and I kind of zoned out of Twitter a little bit, and I still use it sometimes. And now, like, it feels like there's a bit of energy on Twitter at the moment. Like stuff's happening.
Yeah, no, it is. There's a definite shift in that landscape as well, and on the social media side, definitely in the events sector, as you say. So, in this time, what have you been doing from a wellness perspective, physically, mentally? Is there something you have been trying to do or you consciously do every day?
I haven't. And I think when you asked me to be on this show, I was a bit like, I'm not sure I'm a great example, because I'm I have to be honest, I'm struggling a little bit. I'm not the most physically active person. Days are long. We're all kind of zoomed out. We're doing 8, 10, 12-hour days where we're mainly looking at a screen. We probably were doing that anyway, but now we're kind of on video doing stuff. And I'm not I try to eat healthy. We eat mainly home cooked meals. Don't really have a choice at the moment, but we have a pretty healthy kind of nutrition side of things.
So,
But I'd love to be more active. I love to play team sports, and obviously that's a bit of a challenge at the moment. I'm not really a gym buff, so a few jogs here and there keep me a little bit more active.
Can you give us any recommendations? As you said, you like documentaries. So what have you seen recently that you would recommend, for example?
Well, I haven't been able to watch too much stuff, but the what's it called, The Last Dance,
No,
the documentary about the Bulls and Michael Jordan. That was pretty good. Babies. There's a 6-part show about babies. I think it's just called Babies.
Okay.
It's really interesting. It's all like psychology about how babies learn and how they develop. And we watched that like a couple of months ago, and it was a really nice thing. All about how important those early months are of development and how they learn to walk and what's the kind of mechanics around that.
Wow.
So that was really good. We're big on cooking shows. Watch a lot of cooking shows and that sort of cultural element to it.
And have there been sort of anyone you've been following or that's been bringing you some positivity or some entertainment in this time?
You mean like industry people or just in general?
Oh, in general, could be anyone.
Can't say I have, to be honest.
What industry people?
Well, I think I've been kind of becoming closer with people, and there's a lot of kind of industry people that I've been having private calls with, and some of it is very kind of just friendly, just no big agenda, or sometimes there's a sort of idea that I want to work on. Like at the moment, I'm really trying to figure out this whole online event space and what are the good platforms and how they can be used. And so, a lot of energy spent around that. So I'm really trying to find the people who think in the same way that I do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the people that are selling certain platforms will focus on a certain platform, and I very much like to be quite agnostic when it comes to platforms.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for people who have the skills and understand how to connect different platforms and make things possible that are only possible with a few options, right? Like, yes, there are some platforms that can do everything.
Yeah.
But they're usually, very expensive, and some of them are just over capacity at the moment.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's interesting to kind of speak to people about how do we do this with maybe some other tools. And it's not easy, but they're very interesting conversations.
So cool. Okay, so let's move away from digital. And
you keep trying to push me away, and I'm like, no, but let me tell you about this other digital thing that I'm working on.
And talk about digital detox. Obviously, you said that you do practice it. You put you don't check your emails in the morning until you get into work. You switch your phone off at after 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening. Is there anything else that you consciously try to do in terms of a digital detox?
I'm very careful about notifications.
Okay.
And about managing my feeds on social media.
Okay.
So I do a lot of, I click on that little button that says, why am I seeing this ad?
Yes.
I unfollow people. Sometimes not in a bad way, not that I'm upset with them, but just like this isn't bringing me value. Yeah. So even on things like Facebook, I might still stay friends with someone, but stop them showing up on my feed. I always turn off notifications from groups on Facebook. So I think groups on Facebook are really useful. Some are really, really good.
Yeah.
But, as soon as you join a group, like all the notifications are on by default, and you I think just to keep your sanity, you need to kind of switch that off, especially if it's a very active group. So things like that, I really like to control my environment, because I find that
because you can. And I think that's really, really good advice, actually, Miguel, because a lot of people don't realize that you are in charge of what you see. And it's not just the algorithm, but you can actually aid the algorithm and let them show you what you want to see, as opposed to just be lost in it,
Yeah, and we have to acknowledge every app and every piece of software is going to want to convince you to turn on notifications, right? Even things like email, right? Like your Outlook or whatever you use,
Yeah.
I have all the sounds turned off,
Yeah.
right? And that's just like a basic tip, but that just keeps me sane because I know that if there's a pop-up or a sound that comes on every time I get an email, I'm going to look at it.
Yeah.
And even if I don't do anything about it, I'm distracted, right? And I'm thinking about it. So I don't have any sounds or any notifications when emails come in.
Yeah.
On Slack, I have it all, silent. So I just try to make sure that I am somewhat in control of when I'm looking at email or notifications. And also, and this isn't perfect and I'm still trying to work on it, but I follow this golden rule, which is you shouldn't use your inbox as your to-do list.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of
Right?
sense. Yeah.
An inbox is supposed to be a place where things arrive.
Yeah.
You deal with it, and then you put it on your to-do list or on your project management, right?
Yeah.
And most people don't do that step.
No, they just kind of go work through their inbox and go through it in terms of like, who haven't I answered yet? And, let me get back to them and then kind of do it chronologically that way.
That causes a lot of stress, but also if you realize sometimes there's emails that you can never quite get to, they're always sort of at the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
And that person that sent you that email, they don't know that you've seen the email.
Yeah.
And that you're doing something about it.
Yeah.
You're just at the bottom of the list, right? So
Yeah.
it's really like, in an ideal world, what I try to do is acknowledge an email.
Yeah.
Say, yep, got it. It's on my list. Take the information I need, archive it, and then put that into some other system. So again, I'm not perfect. I'm still working on it, but I'm conscious that that's a much better system. And that's what I'm working towards.
So, with Copenhagen or Denmark in general not having gone into a pure lockdown, I can't say that life's going to return to normal and use that in a question. So when everything returns to a new normal and, these lockdown measures and restrictions are gone, what's the first place that you want to go to that you can't go to now?
I want to go see my parents and my family in Portugal. I
Yeah.
think I haven't seen them for a long time now. So yeah, that's definitely top of the list. We had flights booked for mid-April and that didn't happen. So we have some vouchers and hopefully we can book those soon. So yeah, definitely the first thing. But yeah, I also miss just restaurants in general. I'm definitely a foodie and that freedom of, hey, let's go get sushi or let's go get ribs or whatever tonight. That's I miss that a lot.
So last question, any words of advice for all of us event profs that are pretty much in this situation all together right now?
Well, one of the things that we haven't talked about, but I think is worth mentioning is, this whole pivot, if we want to use the pivot word, to virtual and to online events, which is a bit of a dirty word at the moment.
Yeah.
I think so many event professionals have so much to offer. And it's getting our heads around technology is challenging. For people that aren't that comfortable with technology, it is challenging. I'm not going to say that it's not, but once you kind of understand the moving parts, 95% of organizing an online event is exactly the same as organizing a physical event. The admin, the project management, all that kind of hard work, all that conversation, all that back and forth, that still happens.
Yeah.
It's just that like on the day, we don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Stay at home, right?
Yeah.
And then the logistics and the sort of technology are a little different. So I think that's really important for people to be aware of. And when they kind of promote their services or when people are out there understanding how to run virtual events, I think having, just jumping in and having that little bit of confidence with the tools will give them that kind of confidence to go forward. And, I think people can do amazing new types of events that we didn't do before.
Yeah.
And I've been looking with a few friends at ideas for events that are coming up in the future. Right. And there's so much stuff that's just like, ooh, interesting. Like I saw a post the other day about somebody who's looking for a hotel suite for a group of doctors to participate in an event remotely, but together.
Okay.
Right. So they wanted to rent a hotel suite to be, I think, 5 or 6 people in a room at, a safe amount of people in a room participating in an online event.
Right.
But they didn't want to be at home they wanted to be in a space where they could discuss with each other. You know?
Yeah.
So essentially, they kind of wanted to make a remote pod for participating in this event. And I was like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, that is a really interesting new event that we never would have thought of.
Yeah.
You know, but these doctors kind of saw the need for, hey, if I'm going to be at home, I'm not really going to be participating, and I'm not going to have an opportunity to really discuss with my colleagues.
Yeah.
So why don't my colleagues go to a venue in safety and just participate there? You know, and just things like that. I'm like, wow, we never really thought about that. But being open to these opportunities and just sort of throwing these ideas out there, I think we're gonna be in a really interesting place. It's different.
Absolutely.
There's massive challenges, but I think there's going to be new types of events that we haven't really thought about before.
Thank you so much, Miguel, for your time. It's been a brilliant chat. I actually have learned so much. I'm taking a lot from this. And thank you everyone for watching our chat. I'm Sabrina Myers from Hot Hospitality Exchange. Stay positive. We're all in this together, and we will come out of it together. Thank you, Miguel.
Sounds good. Cheers. Bye. Thank you.